It's a Wednesday morning. We're going to get some good sports medicine insight now from our good friend, Dr. Joe Congini. Dr. Joe's been with us over 25 years here on the morning show. That's plenty of insight. And Joe, where are you heading today with us with the information?
Well, how about, there's going to be a little bit of bad and frustrating news and a little bit of good news. So one of the things, Ray, oh my gosh, with this extension of football and the playoffs and, America's so intrigued with the college and pro playoffs and everything else, it's really impinging on winter sports. I mean, winter sports for our kids in this region, they're halfway into the season, and still there's so much focus on football. And a couple of points that I just want to make related to the big news, injury news of the week in football. It really takes us back. We talk several times a year, and have talked this year about back to the Achilles tendon. And I know we have a lot of fatigue talking about it, and I know we have a lot of fatigue talking about the athlete Deshaun Watson, who we got the news, really ominous news about his Achilles tendon. We talked about how important that Achilles complex is, the push-off complex, to walk, to jog, to sprint, to cut and jump, and all the powerful movements of sports are through that Achilles tendon and into that very strong complex of muscles known as the calf muscles. And so it's really an ominous sign. I've told you that it's probably one of the most well-studied areas in the NFL data. I looked it up earlier in the year this year. Long-term data, just really athletes in the NFL just do not do good. It's not promising to have an Achilles rupture. The later you get in your career, almost by year, the worse the data is. And then on top of it, having a re-rupture really doesn't look very good at all. It is interesting that a lot of people were asking me didn't they know about the progress? What was the progress like? Of course, we don't know those things, and nobody has said. One of the great things about us in the sports medicine team, we have so many parts of our team that have eyeballs on our athletes and, keeping us updated as to the progress they're making. There's athletic trainers that are in the building, certainly certified athletic trainers working with these athletes. We have sports PTs rehabilitating these athletes. We really don't know because we haven't been told. Was it lack of progress? Did Deshaun Watson get off to a bad start in his rehab? Was there anything that looked like it wasn't promising in the beginning of his rehab, or was it just a re-injury? We're really not sure of that, but the point of the matter is these powerful calf muscles, so important in sports. We saw many examples again this year. Aaron Rodgers, one of many. The Browns kick returner Grant never came back. Many never come back. And so, gosh, after a second rupture this late in the season, I think it's very unlikely that we'd see Deshaun Watson next year and maybe ever. So that really beginning to turn the page on really a frustrating period of time for fans in our area. But one of the things on the optimistic side that I wanted to talk about, just it made me chuckle a little because I've seen so much of it in my career, was the national feed of the Ohio State game Friday night. They showed Ohio State's quarterback, Will Howard, with a pretty big knot on the back of his hand. And I started to read a little bit, and you got to be careful with some of the social media stuff that you read, even during and after the game, about, oh my gosh, he may have a fracture, and this may really affect him in the game, and all this kind of stuff. And the fact of the matter is he's not even on the injury reports for Ohio State. In fact, Ohio State has a very clean injury report right now, almost nobody on it in preparation for the Monday championship game. It's also a lot of intrigue for us in football with Ohio State obviously playing, and Notre Dame as well with the history of Notre Dame. It's kind of an intriguing game, but Ohio State is so good, pretty healthy. But I wanted to talk about this Will Howard injury. It's something I've seen for so many years, is what happens to a lot of people in ball handling sports, particularly quarterbacks in football, is they will take a helmet to the hand or a shoulder pad or a hand to ground or cleated. Somebody will step on the hand. And what it does is it kind of breaks up some of the blood vessels in that area, just like it will in the thigh if you take a bad thigh bruise or contusion, or in the calf, hamstring. If you get a bad contusion there, it will bleed in that area. And the name we have for that is called a hematoma. But these hematomas, you can really mobilize that fluid, get it out of there fairly quickly. Usually with compression, you can get that out of there very quickly. Sometimes if it's in a bad area that's restricting movement, that we may actually aspirate and remove that fluid. But most of the time we don't even need to do that. And so Will Howard went on, played the rest of the game, didn't even make the injury report, and yet I was reading things online of he may have a fracture in the hand and all these kinds of things. And I don't know, again, I don't get to evaluate these players, but it looked like a hematoma to me, and with no mention in the injury report and full practice this week, I don't think there have to be any worries for Ohio State Buckeye fans about their quarterback this week.
Well, the Buckeyes preparing for Notre Dame, the game in New Orleans, long football season for sure. Joe, it's going to be interesting, I think, maybe from a sports medicine perspective, as now they're talking about even expanding us next year to 16 games, what this does to college football in regards to the games played, the length of the season for some, and then into spring football, where so many people start paying attention to their team. And you've often always said on this show that, you know, too much with certain muscles is going to wear them down. If you're playing football, let's say 8-9 months a year instead of 6, what that does to the injury report in the future.
I think there's no question about it. We'll look at the numbers. Of course, we need research numbers, but I think already what we're looking at is, gosh, the injury rates are just extremely high. And there's going to be almost no break, like you said, into spring football. So it will be like many other sports. It'll become a 9, 10, 12-month-a-year endeavor in football. And I think that's too much, too. But we'll keep an eye on the research, and we'll keep you updated, Ray.
All right, Joe. Thank you as always, my friend. Appreciate you making time with us on Wednesdays. Many people always look forward to the visit from Dr. Joe Congini Wednesdays. Thanks, Joe.
Thanks, Ray. Have a great week.
You too, my friend.